Hello, we are here today with Mishaal Khan. He is a cybersecurity consultant and a privacy consultant. He's going to be walking us through some neat stuff with LinkedIn. Mishaal, I'll let you take it away.
Thank you, Tom. Today I'm going to teach you two quick techniques regarding LinkedIn and how to get email addresses or LinkedIn profiles if you have one or the other. A quick technique here is if you have a LinkedIn profile. So let's go to my sock puppet profile. And it's important to do this with not your real LinkedIn profile because you leave a trace. People know who's viewed your profile if they have a premium account. So let's say I'm looking for someone. Let's pick on Jeff Weiner. And let's click on his profile. And I want to know his email address. Now, there's many ways I can go about this. I can do my regular OSINT stuff, go under hunter.io and look for LinkedIn, and a bunch of emails pop up and it shows me their sources as well. I can go to those sources and find out email addresses there. But a better way of doing this is within the profile page, there are hints on what their LinkedIn ID is. So let's try to figure out what the LinkedIn ID here is, and pretty soon you'll see where I'm going with this. So you right click on the page if you're using Firefox, similar with other browsers, and you do a view page source, and now you see all that code. Don't get intimidated by this. All you need to do is press Command F or Control F and search. Search for member and then a colon. And what you see here is one of 83 results. The first result is going to be your member ID. You see here 827, that's my member ID. But you hit back once and you get some garbage here, you press back twice. So the second last member ID is Jeff Weiner's member ID. So you take this, you copy this, you keep that. And now what you do here is you search this member ID amongst a data breach. So for this, what you need to do is download a data breach, and that data breach is called LinkedIn users or LI users. Just Google search LI users. The first result that you get is the LinkedIn users data breach. What this breach has are two fields only. The user ID, which we just got, and then the associated email address that was attached to it. All you do now is grep or search through your LinkedIn database. So I already have this. Let me back this up. So here's what you search as. So you do a grep, or what I do is rip grep, which is a faster way of doing grep. You put in the LinkedIn ID, you point to your text file, which is your entire database. I just like to do this color always because it gives a nice colorful output. And as I press enter, I got two results. The first one had a 1 in front of it, so that's incorrect. But this is the correct user ID, and we get the email address that Jeff has registered with LinkedIn. So this assures me that, yes, this is the email address that was part of that data breach at the time that when it was breached. So that's the first technique, getting getting an email address from the user ID when you know the person's profile, when you have a match. The second technique, also used quite often. Now let's take this email address. Let's say we didn't know who this email address belonged to. I take this and I paste it in the text file. So create a text file, call it linkedin.txt, and I put in a bunch of email addresses here, jsmith@linkedin.com, John Smith, Bob Smith at Gmail, some random stuff I got. Within this, one of these is my sock puppet account, this alanmiller@gmail.com. That's an email address that I own. It's there for testing so that you actually get some hits. And now we've put a bunch of email addresses in this text file. Let me save this text file here. And then let's go back to LinkedIn. So going back to your account, let's click on home. Let's click on my network, and let's go under my contacts. The second technique is called contact exploitation. The reason we do this is LinkedIn won't allow you to search through emails. If I take this email address and I put it up in the search bar and I hit search, it's not gonna bring up Jeff's profile. So what I need to do is add it as a contact and allow LinkedIn to suggest to me what profiles are connected to this email address. So I go under contacts, I do add more, and when I do add more, it asks me to connect different email addresses and stuff. I'm not going to do that. The last option here is upload a file. So I upload a file. This is the same LinkedIn file that I had. I open this up and I click upload. I was going to take those 6, 7 contacts that I had, and it's now suggesting me. This first contact here is this one here, that Gmail account that I had. This is another sock puppet account that I own. So it immediately suggested that. The rest of them, there's no suggestion. But wait, let's do skip. Here are the email addresses that popped up. No suggestions so far. Let's skip all of that and let's say done for now. Go back to your contacts. Now it says 7 contacts found or entered in my address book. Now these are those contacts. Anywhere where it says connect, it means that profile is public, it's active, and they're advertising their email address. So John Smith is a real person. What email address was this? johnsmith@gmail.com. It's this actual person. You click on his link and you can actually go to his profile. And then the rest of them, if it shows invite, it means either this email address did not exist or they have some privacy enabled. But at least it gives you an idea of what account is registered with that email address. So this is called contact exploitation. So these two techniques together are extremely helpful when performing OSINT with an email address or a LinkedIn profile.
Wow, that was really cool. Thank you for showing me that. I kind of always hear about things like this, or even if I read about them, but actually seeing it play out on the screen makes it super simple. A couple of questions that come to my mind. When does this not work? Like, are there situations or scenarios where the two techniques you just described would fail?
Yeah, so it won't work if you have privacy set within your profile. So like within this search result, I searched for a couple of profiles like Jeff Wiener's. Let's take his example. It says here invite. I click on his name. Nothing really shows up. His name doesn't show up. But I know for a fact that this is the email address he used to register because it's in this data breach. Data breaches don't lie. But maybe he either changed his email address after that data breach to something else, or he just set his privacy as don't allow my profile to be searched from an email address. By default, it's not on, but you can turn it on. So maybe his privacy was turned on. So that's one caveat to contact exploitation. The other caveat, and when this technique won't work, is if the person just created a profile and they're brand new to this. So you got to realize the data breach was in, so if you go to haveibeenpwned.com and there's this LinkedIn section, it tells you the data breach was in 2012, 5th of May, 2012. So if a person created an account after 2012, they will not be part of that data breach and they won't show up as part of this lookup, which doesn't mean they don't exist. It just means they don't exist in the data breach. So you have to keep that in mind when doing this search. It's not 100% absolute. It's hit or miss, but it's worth searching through.
Very nice. Do you find one technique like maybe more valuable than the other, or one that you use more frequently, or do you kind of use them both pretty equally?
It's most likely contact exploitation that I use much more because when doing OSINT, you usually start off with email addresses. There's usually a seed that you start off with. That seed is usually a phone number, a name, or an email address. And an email address in today's day and age is not hard to find. Through all the other OSINT techniques that we always talk about, an email address is easy to find. So once you have that email address, you want to connect it to a LinkedIn profile so that you get more information from LinkedIn. So that's why contact exploitation, which by manually adding their email address to your own contacts and then having LinkedIn suggest to you what profile this is connected to, is very powerful. And that's a technique that is probably more common than the other one.
Okay, that makes sense. Um, Once you turn an email address into a LinkedIn profile, what's some useful information you might find as an investigator, or some other useful pivot points that you might find?
Yeah, so the reason this is important is because on LinkedIn, there's a lot of people with similar names. So if I just search for, John Doe, a lot of suggestions come up. And which John Doe do I want? I don't know. I can narrow it down as much as I want with the limited options I have, but I can't really go deep with contact exploitation. As you saw, one of these, or John Smith, sorry, here, had one profile associated with them. So once I know that one profile, now I've narrowed it down so much that I know that the information I'm looking here right now is of that person and of no one else. A lot of the times, people will put information in their LinkedIn, which is not available elsewhere. And as OSINT investigators, we need to verify the information. Most likely, and I've seen this from experience, the information on LinkedIn is very accurate because it's a professional portal. It's about your job. It's about your profession. People lie a little bit. I mean, they'll exaggerate their level of experience and stuff, but certain things about them they won't lie or exaggerate about, like the certifications they have, the places they've worked, and now suddenly you have a timeline of where the person was physically because of that company where they worked. Sometimes they'll put contact information. A lot of the times I've seen date of births, or at least partial date of births. I'll see a day and a month, but I won't see a year. I'll get the year from somewhere else, but on LinkedIn, I'll see a day and a month or some other tidbits of information. So it's very important, at least going through some of this, because you never know what you may find. And especially I've seen this more than others. On other social media, people will lie, put alias information or bogus information. Here, if it's their real profile, they'll need to have some level of truth in here. So that's why I feel LinkedIn is quite important to investigate.
Very nice. Yeah. So it sounds like getting comfortable with OSINT on LinkedIn is probably going to be an essential part of anyone's OSINT toolkit.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, very good. Well, I think that's all the questions I have about LinkedIn for right now. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we close?
Uh, Doing these investigations a lot, I've noticed a lot of the kids may not be on LinkedIn. A lot of people who are not in the job search arena, who are under the age of, let's say, I don't know, 18, you won't find them on LinkedIn. So there's a certain, obviously, subset of people that are on LinkedIn, but eventually everyone will be, and it's worth checking if your profile exists. And if they don't exist, then these two techniques that I showed you will absolutely narrow it down and find it. Most of the times when the person is harder to find, I just search the data breach, get their email address, and boom, I have at least a profile to work with from then on. So I would not discount the abilities within LinkedIn. Use it. Use the same techniques in other social media profiles as well. The whole point here is get as much information you can and then start verifying it and then sifting through what's relevant and what's not. That's the whole point of OSINT.
Very nice. Well, I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your day to share this with us. I'm looking forward to more content from you personally, and I just can't thank you enough for coming on. Have a good rest of your day.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Thank you, Tom.